One of the best places to ride your bike in LA is here at the Venice Beach Bike Path. Because you just get on the path and ride.
And what's not to love? It's 22 miles of continuous bike path with no obstructions. Well, except for people like this guy. But you know what? When you're riding down the beach, it's all good.
And one of the best places to drive in LA is Pacific Coast Highway just west of Malibu. You just get on the road and drive.
And what's not to love? It's also about 22 miles of open road for you to cruise down the Pacific Coast. But once you get into the city, there is nothing to love about getting around in LA. And that's because you can never really get into a flow. Now, you may think that this is because there simply is not enough room for everyone to drive their own personal automobile without any alternatives to get around. And to an extent, you'd be right. But whether you're on a busy road or a quiet street, traffic engineers seem to have gone out of their way to come up with some of the most frustrating, brainless, and ignored tools that not only interrupt your flow, but also make you unsafe. What are these tools? Well, they're things that make you There are few things more annoying than things that stop flow. Things like shot clocks, blood clots, and interstate cops. My point is, your flow gets stopped. In our built environment, it's stop signs. You may think stop signs are a necessary evil where you need to sacrifice a little flow in order to get a little safety to navigate an intersection, right? Well, not always. Stop signs are actually the road design equivalent of out-of-touch adults treating otherwise smart kids like dummies.
All right, dummy. This is a stop sign. When you come to the stop sign, you stop. It doesn't matter if there's no one at the intersection. Don't even think about it. Just come to a stop. Then you look left, you look right, and if no one's going through the intersection, you go.
And then, as many parents would attest to, your suggestion is considered and then duly ignored. Just like stop signs. Cars don't stop for them. And Lord knows I've never seen a bike stop for them. The stop sign is treated more as a stop suggestion, because you are, in fact, not a dummy. If you come to an empty intersection, especially one that you're familiar with, you're probably not going to come to a complete stop if you feel safe. And then you get in the habit of rolling through stops. And then you keep doing that, reinforcing this habit that you do over and over and over again until something bad happens. At a recent neighborhood council meeting, they were discussing putting in some stop signs with the hope that they would make the intersections safer for pedestrians.
East-west streets running through here don't have stop signs at any of the intersections, which makes it hard for residents in this neighborhood to walk north and south because they might have to cross 3 unprotected intersections to get to the commercial areas on Santa Monica.
I get what the neighborhood council is trying to do here. If I'm going north on this street towards the shops on Santa Monica Boulevard, there is nothing on this cross street slowing traffic down. And that makes it feel pretty dangerous, regardless of whether I'm walking, biking, or driving, to cross here. But, as one caller pointed out, adding stop signs here might not help with these issues.
My son goes to New Roads, and he walks home to Purdue along Nebraska. And on Wednesday was almost hit twice by people not stopping at stop signs. So wow. And they looked at him like he had done the wrong thing.
It's no secret why people don't stop at stop signs. I'll be the first to admit, if I'm going west on that cross street, man, it's awesome. Especially if I'm on a bike, I can just go without any stop to my flow. But with stop signs, when you stop at every stop, riding a bike sucks. It takes so much time and effort to come up to speed from a complete stop just to ride down one block to stop at the next stop sign over consecutive intersections over and over and over again. Some people advocate for something called the Idaho stop, where bikes are allowed to treat stop signs as yield signs. But when this dingus didn't stop for me after I came to a complete stop, I know he would have run me over if I treated this as an Idaho stop. If you're trying to encourage bicycling as an alternative to driving, stop signs ain't it. If you're in a car, you get all the same issues, just multiplied by thousands of pounds of metal. Worse gas mileage, wearing out your brakes, and putting unnecessary city miles on your engine. Well, unless you're this guy.
But the biggest issue I have is that this dummy is telling you what to do. By taking away all the agency from relatively intelligent human beings to navigate a complex environment and turning the decision into a binary stop versus go, it lulls people into thinking, I came to a stop, now it's my turn to go, I own and dominate this whole intersection, no one else should be here but me, which creates an environment of aggression, which ultimately dehumanizes places when we should be making them more human.
So if people aren't going to stop at these intersections and they're not going to pay attention as they drive through them, we need to stop kidding ourselves and just design the intersection for that behavior. So what's the solution?
Just get rid of the stop signs!
Roundabouts are a gift from the engineering gods for everyone who ignores stop signs.
Woohoo!
They have so many advantages. They're multimodal. Everyone who enters the intersection follows the same rules, which is to just keep going. Unless there's already someone in the intersection, then you just slow down for them. That's called yielding. This is pretty much how people treat stop sign intersections anyway, but with a roundabout, everyone's more on the same page, allowing for a continuous flow of traffic. Since roundabouts allow a continuous flow of traffic through the intersection, you prevent these large backups that you'll see at busier intersections that try to stop traffic. If you're thinking, yeah, that sounds great in theory, but has anyone actually shown that more cars flow through a roundabout than through a four-way stop? Well, yeah, the Mythbusters did. They set up a four-way stop intersection, counted the amount of cars that went through, and then set up a roundabout and counted the cars that went through that.
And it's time to crunch the crucial numbers.
Yes, the results are finally in. At the four-way stop, over a period of time of exactly 15 minutes, we counted an average number of 385 cars.
And the roundabout, on the other hand, allowed a whopping 460 cars to pass through it. That's an improvement of almost 20%.
Some of the best places to put roundabouts are larger signalized intersections that are undergoing a road diet. Downtown Culver City underwent a road diet, which was great for pedestrians, but it was so terrible for car congestion that the city council voted to add back a traffic lane. But maybe if they put in some roundabouts instead, they would have been able to maintain traffic flow. Road Guy Rob has a great explanation of how this works.
Typically, somebody like me hates road diets because it can mean you get stuck in traffic. This 5-lane street needs a long enough green light to move all the cars that are waiting. But if drivers only have 1 lane instead of 2, that line gets more than twice as long, which means the green light needs to either be really long, which is bad for the side street, that means a lot longer red light for them, or not all the cars are going to make it through the green. At a roundabout, cars enter and then exit fairly randomly. And if there's several roundabouts in a row, traffic becomes very random. Because cars are moving all the time, traffic uses the road more efficiently, so you don't need as much road. And if a road can move the same amount of traffic just as quickly with less space, well, now we have a place we can put in a bike trail.
I previously made a video where I mentioned that it can take an hour to travel the 9 miles from West LA to Hollywood.
Why does it average 9 miles an hour to get here?
But imagine if all the signalized intersections on Santa Monica Boulevard were replaced with roundabouts. Now instead of alternating between driving 40 miles an hour and coming to a complete stop for 90 seconds every few intersections, you can design a road where the cars drive, say, 18 miles an hour continuously, getting you between West LA and Hollywood twice as fast and more safely. I've heard plenty of people tell me they hate roundabouts because they hate driving around this large obstruction in the intersection. But this is a good thing. It breaks you from the mindless trance of just driving straight and simply doing what the signs and lights are telling you to do. Something that forces you to pay attention on the road is a feature, not a bug. That obstruction slows cars down and prevents the most dangerous form of car collision, the T-bone, all while magically maintaining traffic flow. At this intersection, a lady named Monique Munoz was killed by a teenager driving 100 miles an hour down Olympic Boulevard. She was killed while making a left-hand turn and was T-boned. This is an outcome that is impossible with a roundabout. But instead of placing a roundabout here, the city just posted signs and hung a rainbow thing to spread the message of hope. Hope that someone will do something, somewhere, anyone, anywhere, somewhere, someone, anyone. But I guess not us. We're not going to do anything. Someone will come and help. I hope. Now, you may think it would be impractical to put a roundabout on every little intersection in LA. I mean, I don't know why it would be a big problem to dig out a small hole and plop a small roundabout in the middle of an intersection. Or if budget is a concern, just put up some bollards. And maybe we should just reconsider if every little neighborhood intersection needs car traffic. Maybe put up some bollards to act as modal filters and make the cars go around the neighborhood so people can feel safer biking and walking through their own neighborhood. But if you must have an intersection for cars, and a roundabout just isn't working for you, one other option is you can have a completely uncontrolled intersection. But not like how they do it in America. I was in Europe earlier this year, and let me show you something that might blow your mind. This four-way intersection has no stop signs, no traffic lights, no roundabout. It's a completely uncontrolled intersection in London, England, and it's an intersection that doesn't treat people like dummies. The intersection itself is raised, like a large speed bump, so whatever direction you're coming from, you have to slow down. As you approach the intersection from this direction, the road narrows, leaving not much room for error, another reason for you to subconsciously slow down. And as you approach the intersection from this direction, yield lines on the ground signal that you need to yield to perpendicular traffic. Everything here was engineered in such a way to guide you to do the right thing, instead of taking all the agency away from your decision-making skills. In fact, I couldn't find a stop sign anywhere in London. I couldn't find any stop signs in Rome. And I think it's a known fact that there are literally no stop signs in Paris. But here in LA, we take stop signs for granted so much that we even put them on our roundabouts. And guess what? All the drivers that come through these stop-abouts treat them just like a normal roundabout anyway. I've never met a stop sign that I liked, never had a good experience with one. So imagine my surprise to find out that urban planner, lecturer, author, and jiu-jitsu master Jeff Speck advocates for more stop signs. In his book, Walkable City Rules, he says we should replace traffic lights with stop signs because traffic lights encourage dangerous driving, like when you're trying to beat the yellow light. And they're terrible for traffic flow because any gains you make by driving fast are erased by spending most of your time stopped at red lights. Which, sure, I get that, but do stop signs really help? I was even further surprised when Strong Towns, a group that advocates for the idea that if you design the streets properly, you don't need signs, extolled Jeff Speck's advocacy of stop signs.
No, but wait. Doesn't Chicago know that this street is far too big and too busy to have a four-way stop sign? Hey, John, the Happy Urbanist, here for Strong Towns. I want to talk about why your city might want to remove a traffic signal and add a stop sign.
No, but wait. I lived in Chicago. I'm very familiar with this intersection. I once waited for 2 hours to get a burger at a joint right back here. And I just wanted to say that I don't think stop signs are the end of the line for this intersection. This intersection is one of a dozen consecutive intersections on this complex street full of pedestrians, cyclists, and cars. The intersections that do have stop signs do a fairly good job of slowing cars down, especially if there are people in the crosswalk. But, as always, if there's no reason to stop, drivers don't stop. The signalized intersections here really do suck, with people stopped for no reason, causing a long line of cars to form, and when the light finally turns green, they all leave as a fleet together, which, as Road Guy Rob pointed out, is an inefficient use of the road. And this can be seen at intersections throughout Chicago. Even when cars line up behind stop signs, the line clears in like 1 to 2 minutes. But when there's a traffic light, the road is used inefficiently. So yeah, some traffic lights suck. I say some because apparently LA is an urban planning black hole where all the laws of physics and urbanism break down. I mean, have you been through a signalized intersection that's gone out and is treated like a stop sign? Everyone is confused, and the traffic flow slows to a crawl. Look, some roads and streets might just have too many cars going through them to allow for a comfortable flow of traffic no matter what you put at the intersection. Hell, even roads that have no intersections get backed up in LA, which just underlines the fact that not only do we need viable alternatives to the personal automobile, but also the places we need to be are nowhere near where we live, and that needs to change. But until then, if it were up to me, I think a lot of signalized intersections would benefit from a roundabout. I think a lot of stop sign intersections would benefit from having raised intersections, and I think a few minor intersections would benefit from just not having through traffic for cars. And Mr. Speck knows all this already. He admits as such in this interview.
I try to walk people through that book from getting them to hate traffic signals to hopefully at the end of that chapter actually considering shared space environments, which would be to me even a step beyond the always stop that you're
with
describing.
No, like naked streets with no like
yes.
in Holland and the Netherlands, they're removing stop signs. They're going to the next
yes.
step, which is
yes.
that every intersection is a negotiation where you have to figure it out, and you know to enter it that way.
Yes. And yeah. I realize that that's like the jiu-jitsu level of urban design, and we gotta, get the base level. But if you,
it turns out he really just wants to use stop signs as a stopgap to eventually not using any signs at all.
I'm calling it. I'm saying the roundabout wins and that this myth is confirmed. The roundabout is a more efficient way to move cars through an intersection.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
Totally.
Confirmed.
Time to adopt it, America.